All right, guys, look, you know what time it is. It's March, which means the final, potentially final, most likely final balance patch for Street Fighter V is just around the corner. According to the last developer update, they said the final patch is going to be slated for March of 2022, and that's where we are now. So you know that means we have to use this opportunity to get one final tier list out. Yes, we got to do a tier list. It's required. This might be the last time we see this form of the game. We still don't really know when that balance patch is going to drop, so we got to get it done. But before we do that, I have to add a disclaimer. Remember, never forget, all tier lists are trash. They give you a very biased and incomplete view of the game's current meta and the characters. They're really useful for confirming your bias or for laughing at someone for having the completely wrong opinion. All right? That's what it's really useful for. You're better off looking at matchup charts for specific characters to get a more well-rounded idea about a character's strengths and weaknesses. So with that said, I'm going to give my opinion of the tiers in the current patch of Street Fighter V leading up into the final balance patch. So let's go ahead and get on into it. We're just going to go in order here. I guess it's alphabetical. We'll just go down the list. Abigail. This is already tough. He'd either be on the low end of A or B. I feel like the nerfs are finally catching up to him. The fact that V-Shift exists makes his guessing game not as prevalent. He has a lot of bad matchups, I feel like, this season. I feel like he's a solid pick, but he has too many bad matchups for me to put in A tier. A tier, I feel like it's a character you can solo main, and I don't think Abigail you can solo main at all right now if you're trying to win tournaments. Some matchups he has are almost unwinnable. I still think V-Trigger 2 is amazingly strong, and his buttons are ridiculous, and his damage potential is really high, and his neutral is good. He has great buttons. So he's gonna get B tier for me. But yeah, I can't put him in A with a good conscience. Ooh, Akuma. People are acting like Akuma is garbage this season. It's wild to see. I feel like there's so much propaganda about how nerfed and how bad Akuma is. I don't think Akuma is bad at all. Easy A. Maybe he could use a slight health buff. He still has Demon Flip. His V trigger is still godly. His buttons are great. His walk speed is great. His pressure is great. I get it that he's like slightly outshined by other characters. You know, everyone points to Tokido dropping Akuma for Urien. Solo maining Akuma, yeah, I don't think that's necessarily the way to go if you're at the top of the game. But Akuma is definitely a great character. Don't let the Akuma players gaslight you into thinking they're winning with a bottom tier character. Akuma is super strong in this version. Alex. This is the character that Daigo recently went on stream and FGC Translated picked up. They said Alex is actually the worst character in the game. I don't think Alex is that bad this season. I think he has utility. We've already seen people like Problem X use Alex to great effectiveness. He beat Punk in Street Fighter League and Red Bull Kumite. He beat me in Red Bull Kumite using Alex. His take throw or command grab or frame trap pressure is a lot more real this version due to the buff range on his command grabs and regular throw and his block strings, and they keep buffing Lariat. So I think these are starting to add up, but I'm gonna put him in B at least. Here's the big one, near and dear to my heart. Balrog is having his best season yet since season 2, but now he has V skill 2 and semi buff dash punches, and they've been slowly bumping up his damage. They've been compensating for the crush counter nerfs, which really hit Balrog hard in season 3. I think paired with the V skill 2, V shift meta helping him out and a lot of matchups on defense and going back to neutral, allowing him to get stores, he might be S tier. I don't think he's top 5. His only downfalls are certain bad matchups, but he's a great meta pick. He beats a lot of the high tier characters. So I think Balrog is going to be probably S tier, but I think there's a lot of good characters this season. So let's see. Birdie, this is a tough one to place. A good Birdie is still terrifying to fight against. I think the big thing that's hurting Birdie is they nerfed his crouching medium punch anti-air to not be able to work on cross-ups. It's flagged in such a way that it can't be cross-ups at all rather than like adjusting the hitbox, and I think that's a pretty bad nerf for him. But in matchups where he gets to play his grounded game, it's super strong actually. Like that part of his gameplay is still very good, but there's a lot of matchups where he can't establish that as well due to the anti-air nerf. I don't know. If I put Alex in B, I gotta put Birdie in B. We'll see how this shapes up, but I'm gonna put Birdie in B. Blanca. I'm gonna downplay Blanca because basically he's just so irrelevant to the meta that I don't know what else to say about him. I'm gonna put him in C tier just because I don't know what point he plays. What is the point of Blanca right now? His tools in a vacuum, they don't seem that bad. He could easily go in B tier, but it's like, I don't know what matchups he beats. You can still lose with a good Blanca, you know. I'm not saying I'm going to smoke every Blanca I fight. Hell no. He's still annoying with his Blanca balls and his approaches, but what problem does he solve? I don't know. You can blame that on lack of knowledge of the game on my part, but I don't see his point right now. If you're pointless, you're gonna have to go to C tier to me. Cammy, we saw her dominate early season. In the beginning of this CPT season, she won the very first 2 events. You know, NL had a pretty good year, doing decent in Street Fighter League, getting second at Red Bull Kumite in Vegas. You know, Hurricane was doing his thing out there in the UK. And you know what? I think on paper, I gotta agree with a lot of people. I think Cammy is possibly the best character in the game. She's one of them for sure. It's just that I agree that I don't know what matchups she really handily loses. Even her bad matchups, it seems like her bad matchups, it feels like she can potentially fight. On top of that, she has a ton of good matchups or even matchups. I think Cammy, she's potentially number 1 in the game just by virtue of matchup spreads. She's got to be up there. You got to put her in the front of S for sure. Chun-Li, she had like a real big, strong opening in 2020 where you could do hit confirm, crouching medium kick to heavy kick legs and it gave a knockdown. But they nerfed that by getting rid of Oki on the heavy kick legs. So now it kind of knocks you down and goes back to neutral. But that's okay because Chun-Li's neutral is ridiculous. I feel like Chun-Li just completely invalidates parts of the cast. When I went from Rog to Oro, I thought, oh, you cannot play the game. She just presses fierce. You literally don't have to know anything else about the character. I feel like you just press fierce. It's actually like a huge problem for a lot of the cast to deal with. I feel like her archetype is still super strong. She just doesn't do much damage. She can still be robbed. If she slips up 1 or 2 times, she might lose, but she can't really do the same to other people. She's better than the characters in B for sure. So she's going to go in A tier. Cody is very strong. I think he's been underrated for a while. He has 2 of the best V triggers in the game. I think his V trigger 1 with the knife, that was the one that was under the radar, I think, until 2020. The forbidden nooch, as Shine would say. It gives him like Chun-Li stand fierce with more damage. V trigger 2 has always been the comeback V trigger, which forces the guests with the command grabs into huge stun, damage, and setups. He also has EX Zonk, man. EX Zonk is always going to be good. It's like EX dash straight on crack. If he gets to the final round with 2 or 3 bars and he lands an EX Zonk, he's going to do like 35% damage, have you close to stun, and put you in the corner instantly. He's explosive, but at the same time has really solid control and good V triggers, and you can play different ways with him. I'm gonna give my man A tier. Next up, Dan. He's a sick character in this game. He has some of the best pressure if he gets going. If you are forced to block Dan, you are actually going to be holding gray damage and pressure for days. But that said, whenever he does a taunt cancel with that V skill, it actually gives you more V meter so that you can V reversal him more often. And he struggles really hard in the neutral because he has very poor reach without using something like an EX Dan kicks or something like that. So he can get zoned out pretty hard. He's a very volatile and scary character, but he doesn't seem consistent, and I don't think he wins too many matchups. I think he has moments where he shines just like Blanca, but I don't know the point. If you didn't study for the pop quiz, Dan and Blanca are going to smoke you. But if you did, I think he falls off quick. Dalsim. I don't know why he became the target of everyone's anger this season. Dalsim has been playing the same to me since season 1. It came to a boiling point with people being tired of the pro sim propaganda, of everyone being like, oh, Dalsim's so bad, we worked so hard, oh, they can just jump at me once and I lose, I have to play perfectly to win. And then they introduced V-Shift. So characters that already had traditionally tough matchups against Dalsim had an even tougher time because once they got in, he could potentially use V-Shift to get away. So his bad matchups got better and his good matchups got better. I, as a Balrog player, don't hate fighting Dalsim, but I cannot deny that he is defining the meta in some ways. So he's going to have to join the S tier. Honda, the moving wall, the hands master, the EX butt splash spammer, easy plus frames for days. You have to respect a Honda player even if there's nothing to respect. It's just that kind of character. That said, it's not like he has confirms or knockdown pressure or great Oki. It's more like block string pressure and plus frames, which you can spend resources like using V reversal to get him off you. It's very hard for him to turn one hit into death, but he can turn one block string sequence into death. He doesn't really have the same get a hit and win type of situation going on, but he can potentially do big things. I think he's better than Dan and Blanca. I'm going to put Honda in B tier. Ed. For a long time, people said Ed was garbage, but he's also just annoying. His damage output is not ridiculous, but that's not what he excels at. His flicker is one of the best moves in the game for pressuring the opponent, confirming into super, and just racking up chip damage. And they made it more safe. Now it's not punishable. It's very spammable. There's a lot of space control options and a lot of hit and run options. His V-Trigger 1, I think, is great. It sets up the Psycho Orb that he follows behind. And his V-Trigger 2, they buffed it so that it guard broke, so it guaranteed him to be +2 in your face and forcing you to guess on a mix-up. I think he's B tier. It's not fantastic, but it's not that bad. He has his uses. Falk, she's close to not having a place in the meta, but I still think she's better than Dan and Blanca. The fact that she has, you know, decent buttons, her zoning game is pretty good. I just don't think she wins too many matchups. She's going to be low B or C tier. She's not hard countering any characters for sure. She's just okay. Yeah, just okay. Fong. This character is stronger and has been stronger than people want to admit for a long time. Fong has some of the most ridiculous block string pressure, plus frame sequences, and mix-ups in this game, and he's had them since season 1. This character can lock you down for good, force you to guess 5-way different mix-ups. His V-triggers have been buffed over the years. His only issue is without the proper sequences, his damage is kind of low. But if he gets meter, he's going to confirm anything to super, set up the cloud, and chip you away. So his damage does rack up, but he doesn't get like one big opening from like a random low fort or something like that. Some people will try to tell you he's D tier or below. I'm going to put him up here in B tier. Gil. He is one of the highest damage output characters in the game. Occasionally, he can land a highlight reel and do about 900% damage. His buttons, some of them are okay, and then some of them are awful. His fireball game, the ability to mix up the speeds between the fire and the ice one, it's a pretty good attribute to have, but it does make him prone to eating jump-ins potentially. His crouching fierce is like so inferior compared to Urien. A lot of people will say he's down here. I might give it to them just because I don't know why you would play Gil versus Urien. Raw strength, I might put him in low B, but I do agree that I don't understand why you would play him. A lot of the V-trigger mixes where he lays down the ice and he sets up things can be option selected on defense to cover a lot of the options. So I'm going to give him high C. G. This character once upon a time was easy A, easy S potentially, but I think he's been toned down a lot. They nerfed his V-trigger 1 so that the number of uses you got scaled with his level system. Those changes paired with some stun changes, some damage changes, and some fireball nerfs, it actually kind of hurt him in the meta. I feel like he's really not as prevalent as he used to be. They've been actually buffing his V-skill 2 and V-trigger 2, which I think are pretty interesting, but most of the time when you're activating, you're already losing, so you're probably not going to have levels. It means his comeback factor is really hurt, and it goes away a lot quicker. I feel like he's high B. I don't think he's not consistent enough anymore. I don't think he's a consistent character. Guile. Guile. I feel like he's just been a solid character for so long now. This is just a easy A tier. A lot of characters still have trouble dealing with sonic booms. You know, he's just good. Balrog's like a hard counter to him. But other than that, a lot of characters really play to his strengths. What can I say? Sonic boom, flash kick, go back to neutral with V-shift here and there. Just a solid high-ish tier pick. Really nothing more to it. Ibuki. Ibuki is also one of those characters who was definitely hurt by the system changes. V-trigger scaling hurts her on activation, and then they introduced V-shift. Her main tool before was get the knockdown, do something dirty with V-trigger 2, and try to kill you right then, get the next knockdown, and the next mix-up will be stunned. But V-shift kind of nullifies that. Like a lot of, she can punish V-shift when going for V-trigger 2 setups, but she has to stop her other setup and go to counter it, which will ruin her mix if you don't do V-shift. Her neutral is decent, but her damage outside of landing a clean hit is pretty low. She's definitely not relevant like she used to be. I'm gonna put her in B tier. Jury, character that was considered trash for a long time, and I don't really know why. She has stand medium kick. Stand medium kick alone is one of the best tools in the entire game. Every Jury player that has ever played Jury just mashes that button alone, and that'll probably win you about 75% of her matches. She has a lot of anti-fireball tools. Her V skill, her EX Tatsu, she is able to punish fireballs while also setting up her own fireball game. And I don't know why people used to act like her fireball is so bad. The low fireball is really good in the ground game. It lets her move behind it and control space. How is that fireball bad? Her DP is a little weird. Her damage from like a random confirm is not that great. Her EX Tatsu, whatever you want to call it, that moves forward with the kicks, is like 5 frames, I believe, so it punishes a lot of moves and lets her activate and get momentum. So she's like a solid hit and run character with a lot of ways to harass from full screen and up close and get punishes on things that characters normally can't punish. People make it out like she's terrible. Kage, another one people say is god awful. Kage to me, definitely better than these characters. His damage output is ridiculous. He has a lot of ways to rob you. His matchup spread is kind of poor because he lacks good range on his normals to play solid footsies, but I feel like he makes up with that. Like his air approach is one of the best in the game. Akuma's dive kick's kind of bad. but Kage's dive kick, if you space it properly and hit certain ranges and certain toes, it's pretty good. He can do crazy damage in one hit, forces you to take throws. I don't think he's as terrible as people make him out to be. I gotta say he's better than Gildan and Blanca. I'm gonna put him on the bottom of B. I guarantee you would lose to Moritu's Dan. Dan is B tier. Yeah, and I would lose to Nemo's Gil and Nishikin's Blanca. What the hell does that mean? All right, let me not engage with the peanut gallery. Wait to engage on the YouTube comments and you guys argue amongst each other there and drive up engagement. I don't need to respond to you in Twitch chat. Next up is Karin. Karin makes me not want to play this game. I hate Karin the most out of every character in this game. Now, you guys might be saying, oh, it's just Rob TV's been beating your ass lately. It's not just Rob. I've lost to every Karin forever. I've never beaten a good Karin in tournament ever. I beat Punk once when he played Karin and then he beat me right after. Lost to Rob before. I've lost to Johnny multiple times, Japanese Karin. I can't beat Karin. Like the way she controls the ground game, you explode if she presses low forward. Her damage is ridiculous. She has anti-fireball tools, which are really strong using her EX Tenko. And also she even has the option to do the full screen overhead to go over fireballs. So it's not like fireballs necessarily slow her down. And she just invalidates a lot of the cast, I feel like. If you have to play in Footsie's range, you just cannot play against her. And even in her bad matchups, she can easily kill you if she gets you to the corner and gets the throw pressure situation going, because her corner throw situation is still the strongest in the game. She can do immediate medium punch and hit confirm for free if you try to challenge her in the walk-up throw, but also her walk-up throw pseudo throw loop is really hard to visually distinguish. She does struggle against characters like maybe like a Birdie and Poison, characters that don't have to play in the low forward range, which is not too many. They give her some trouble, but even then she could potentially win in one hit and not need resources to do it. You know, it's not like characters that win in one hit with like V trigger. She can do it from any point in the game because she doesn't really need resources. I'm going to put her up here in S tier. You can make the argument that Cammy has less bad matchups, but I would rather fight a good Cammy any day of the week over Karin. Free. That's just my personal opinion. They're both ridiculously good. I would argue that Cammy, matchup spread wise, probably better. But the way Karin forces you to play the game and the way you explode if she touches you, it makes me not want to play the game. That's my Karin spiel. Ken, he's been buffed a lot. Ken player's been begging for buffs for years. And for some reason, the blanket buff they gave Ken to solve all his problems was to just make heavy punch DP hit full screen. Having a 4-frame DP that goes half screen really ruins a lot of matchups for a lot of characters. On top of that, Ken never was touch in the ways that make him explosive. His back throw is top one in the game. If Ken back throws you from half screen, you're instantly in the corner. So when he's in the corner, if he gets one touch or one EXDP, he pushes you to like 3/4 to half screen away, and then it's a 50-50. Is he gonna back throw you to the corner, or is he going to crush counter you for trying to tech the throw or escape the throw situation and then push you to the other corner? And on top of that, I think his neutral is great. His hit confirms are great. His damage is amazing given the right situation. If he gets a raw V-Trigger 2, for example, which I didn't mention, V-Trigger 2 nullifies fireball games versus every other character. He can do like 70% combos easily with the right meter. I think Ken is easily an A tier character this season. There's definitely going to be matchups he struggles in. Characters who can go through fireballs really easily and keep out of that low forward confirm range are going to give him trouble. But Ken, I think he's great. I think he's super good this season. Colleen, in a lot of ways, I feel like she's similar to Karin in the way she controls neutral, in the sense that you have to respect her control in neutral. It's different than Karin's low forward game because she's not going to hit confirm a low. Her neutral game and conversion game is not as strong as Karin, but she can potentially do more when she gets that knockdown because she actually has ways to set up mix with the hail and cross throughs. And all this is before even the main point of the character, V-Trigger 2. V-Trigger 2 for Colleen is still busted. You cannot play the game when she pops V-Trigger 2. You have to just let her do what she wants to do. Hope she burns the V-Trigger before you die. You can't afford to get knocked down. You can't afford to get crush countered. She actually has a one-player game with a 2-bar V-Trigger. It's still 2 bars. I feel like the one nerf she needs is to make that V-Trigger 3 bars. She does have bad matchups though. She struggles versus characters with fireballs. Karin has things like EX Tenko and Cammy has EX Drill to like go full screen through fireballs. Colleen doesn't have that. I think in some matchups she's S tier, but she has enough matchups where she gets zoned out where I have to give it to A. I'll give it to the Colleen mains. You can keep downplaying. Lauda, one of the best robbery characters in the game. She invalidates certain characters like Balrog and Alex. I don't think V-Shift hurts her as much as Idom would want to make you believe, but I can see the argument that she's not a consistent character to win on her own. She's still extremely volatile. She still has extremely damaging ways to punish you for going for the V-Shift, because she's not like a pure grappler. It's not like a coin flip. Am I going to do meaty or command grab? Because of that, I don't think V-Shift is like as detrimental as people make it out to be, but I can see the argument that there's matchups she's going to struggle in, and V-Shift does give her more to think about. I'll put Laura over here. I'll put her in the higher B tier. Lucia, strength-wise, she could go in B tier. She does a lot of damage. It has okay zoning. She has a fireball, but she's just like useless. Why would you play her? I don't know. I'm gonna put her in like useless tier. In a vacuum, she could be as strong as Falk or Kage, but I feel like these characters offer more dynamic approaches to the game. She does do a lot of damage if she gets the right hit. Yeah, Hiroki's decent. Some of her knockdown pressure is decent, but then why don't you just play Cammy or Ken, or I don't know. Not too much use for her. Bibson. I'm trying to think, does V-Shift help Bison more than it hurts him? Bison's one of the most V-shiftable characters in the game, to be honest. He still has great pressure. I just don't feel as scared about Bison as I used to. He's either high B or bottom of A. I mean, what is there to say about him, right? His plus frame situations are amazing. His V triggers offer a lot of versatility in how he can play. He has great buttons, but he can be V shifted himself, right? Like you can V shift Psycho Axe and punish it. You can V shift some of his like Devil's Reverses, but he does have Scissors, so he likes to V shift as well. And he was in A tier before for me, so I'm going to put him in A tier. I'll put him at low A. Menad. Menad is low-key kind of good. She's not maybe worth the squeeze with her difficulty in mastering her V-trigger versus the reward, but she can still like zone out a lot of characters. She has a lot of anti-fireball tools herself. Her V-trigger is still one of the best in the game. V-shift might help y'all get out of certain mix-ups, but it's still extremely powerful. Like if she pops and you're forced to block, you're probably going to lose. I still think she's a pretty good character in this game. She's going to lose to a certain meta characters, like Balrog is going to smoke her, of course, but I think she serves a function. Her main issue is difficulty to master to get the most reward out of. I'm going to put her in B tier. Nash has heavily improved this season. Even after they gave him the 3-frame and they buffed some of his V-Trigger 2 stuff, they buffed him again in the middle of the season by giving him that full screen Sobot kick. It's only -3, but the pushback is ridiculous and its range is even more ridiculous. He got a few other buffs, some new combo routes, so basically they've just been giving him a bit more sauce and a bit more abusable options in neutral. I think his V-Trigger 2 is actually really good now. It used to be kind of like the laughingstock V-Trigger, but gives him plus frames. He can do Sobot to activate from like full screen and try to rob you a little bit. His damage is still not good, and his anti-air game is still too finicky, whereas a lot of other characters just press 1 or 2 buttons that cover 90% of angles. I don't know. I think Nash is solid, though. I'm going to put him up here in B tier. Nikali, he's not bad. He has good meaties, decent damage. He has a command grab. He has a DP. It's just that he's so well-rounded that he might as well not exist. Once again, this is just like irrelevant tier. I think he's better than Falk, but why would you pick Nikali? Like, I don't see a point to pick him. I'm not saying his tools alone are bad, but he doesn't excel in anything that would warrant picking him over like any character above him. He's a cool character, sort of. Just the way he plays got really boring. I mean, if you guys don't know, that was my initial main for Street Fighter V. I put out a lot of tech for Nikali in Season 1. You know, I optimized every single knockdown situation in frame kill before I realized that all you needed to do was walk up and press light kick. Walk up and do meaty light kick or command grab. That's it. Hasn't changed since Season 1. No point in playing him. Poison. This is a big one. Poison is busted. Poison makes so much of the cast irrelevant. The fact that she trades with fireballs from full screen in her favor and has things like EX skill flip, it goes through fireballs, it can go over lows, and it's only -4 on block, and it's an overhead, and it's fast as hell, is busted. That tool alone is busted. Her EX heart rate alone is busted. She has so many things that are in a vacuum busted, but then combined with her whole package, it's like extra busted. Like, you just can't play certain characters against her. She's a meta-defining character in that sense, where like she is a wrench in your bracket or your game plan if you solo main certain characters. You will not get past a good Poison. Her damage is absurd. All of her buttons have great range. Like, her counter hit confirms will always reach. Like, everything works with her. And on top of her great zoning game, she can also rush down, put you in the grinder by using her meter to do EX heart rate over and over and do things like jab and a tick throw or regular throw, or just do another EX heart rate right after. She forces you to burn your V reversal, and she doesn't have to do the same ever. This character, I think, is not talked about enough for how much of a problem she really is. She's easy S tier. I'll put her above Karin, to be honest. I hate fighting Karin more, but Poison I think is better. Armika. Yeah, Armika's not great anymore. V-Shift really kind of screws her game plan entirely. She's just a complete gamble maniac character now. Like, she used to be able to play, I think, more solid and fish for her opening and do things like go for like regular grab and play the neutral a bit more, like how Fudo played her. But I think V-Shift ruined that game plan, and now you just have to be a maniac. Like, that's why Luffy's still out there playing Mika, and he's still getting wins here and there because he plays like a maniac. But I think you're forced to go for the gamble style. She's almost C tier to me. She's definitely not a character you want to pick. Here, how about this? I think we might need to make another tier. I think we got to do this. Yeah, B was getting crowded. I agree. Rashid. Rashid has been nerfed over the years, but it doesn't matter, man. Rashid is so good. Both his Fierce Punch buttons control the neutral. Spinning Mixer is one of the best anti-airs of all time. He has versatility in the way he can play, because he can play super solid and perfect control, a la Dual Kevin, or complete off-the-wall nut like JB. His V-triggers are both amazing in terms of stopping the gameplay, stopping and controlling neutral, or turning on the offense. Both V-trigger 1 and V-trigger 2 can both do that. His damage per interaction is a little low, but this character is constantly finding new ways to move and mix you, and his off-the-wall dive kick, it was nerfed to give him a sharper angle so you can't use it to escape the corner, but that made it offensively stronger. He's still S tier. I don't think he's top 5, but I think he's still S tier in my opinion. Ryu started off season 5 with a lot of strong buffs, and his V-trigger 2 getting buffed to have that extra follow-up attack was pretty good. His damage is decent, but he still suffers from not having great ways to approach the neutral besides like an okay fireball game and an okay low forward. He does have like hit confirm low forward to Tatsu, but that only works on standing opponents, so it's a little risky to go for. His damage is decent if he gets good hits, but it's not explosive enough. Relying solely on a okay fireball game is not great in Street Fighter V with a lot of anti-fireball tools. I'd put him in low B, but I almost want to put him in D just because I feel like you should play Ken. Sagat is also another character which I feel like people talk like he's like is not in the game for some reason. I think his fireball game is very strong. His standing jab is one of the best 4-frame punishes in the game. It goes pretty much full screen, and that'll combo into things like jab and EX fireball, which gives him a conversion to DP. He has some good buttons in neutral as well. I think he's a decent character. He's definitely not high tier, but I think he serves more of a purpose than Ryu does. For sure. I'm going to put Sagat here in the B tier. Definitely not one you want to solo main, but definitely a character that you can use in this game. And he's not as garbage as Sagat players will make him out to be. Sakura. She's pretty good. Is she A tier good? Her throw pressure, amazing. Her walk speed, amazing. If you ever tried to tick throw Sakura mid-screen, she's just going to hold back and walk away from it. Her low forward confirms are decent. Speaking of 4-frame punishes, her standing light kick goes full screen. Yeah, she's better than Abigail. She better than G? I think she's better than G. She's A tier to me. Sakura is definitely an offensive powerhouse. Her jump in is also good. Her jump in heavy kick can hit really low. On top of her fast movement, fast dash, and fast walk speed, she can really easily overwhelm your mental stack and go for the jump heavy kick and things like that. I think she's a good character. I'm going to put her in A tier. Seth. This character, I think the last time we made a tier list, Seth was top 1 free, but Seth got severely nerfed after running Wild in Champion Edition. Now you kind of have to actually know what you're doing. They nerfed V-Trigger 1 pretty hard by increasing the amount of V-meter that it uses. So a lot of Seths actually transitioned to using V-Trigger 2, which I think is still amazing. V-Trigger 2 allows you to get pretty much a pure 50-50 into a ton of damage out of nowhere. I think Seth is still a strong character, still relevant in the meta, but it's no longer the case where you can just have a pocket Seth and win. You have to be a character specialist. You have to know V-Trigger 2. You got to rob people when the moment comes. Seth is also top of B or A tier to me. I'm going to put her in A tier. Urien. We're back in the S tier. Urien, a lot of people argued, was close to top 1. I think Urien is incredibly strong. V-Shift can sometimes save you from some sloppy Aegis conversions, but he has ways to cover that still. His neutral is as great as ever. He's always had super strong anti-air conversions, amazing damage, amazing pressure, good throw situation, Aegis, right? And then V-Skill 2, when they introduced that, that really ramped him up in the tier list to help him combat zoners, which is the one thing he kind of struggles with. Where I'd put him, I don't know. This is going to be like a matchup breakdown, and I'm going to be honest, I don't know where they fall. I think Urien is up here in the potential top 5. I just don't know where he belongs. I'm going to put Karin over Urien for my own personal prejudice. Vega. Vega has been cursed in the history of Street Fighter V for having a solid ground game, but his air game is just trash. He does have one of the best anti-airs in the game, though, if I'm being honest. Vega will always walk understanding light kick for any kind of steep jump angle, but there's a 5% of the time where he just eats a huge jump in and loses half his health. And if he gets the light kick punish instead, he tickles you. So his low damage output, his lack of consistent anti-air, it does hurt him, but his neutral and his buttons on the ground are great. Some of the best in the game for sure, but he can't really rob you. He's not explosive. He can just harass you with his claw. And then it just kind of falls apart as the match goes on. If he loses his claw, loses his mask, you're fighting an uphill battle. I think he's solid, but I don't think he's going to be an A tier at all. I think he's going to be maybe above Alex here in the B tier. Zangief. I'm sure all the Zangief mains are here to hear me complain about Zangief. Look, here's the truth of the matter. Zangief is not in a great competitive place in Street Fighter V. He loses too hard to too many of the top tier meta characters. V-Shift definitely hurt him, but he does still have SPD. The fact that he can still win off one opening makes him still scary enough for me to put him above some of these characters down here. He can still rob you blind if things line up. I will say his matchups, not all of them are as bad as Geef players make him out to be. I still feel like most of the Geef player base, if you listen to the masses, they don't know how to play most of the matchups. When you play a good Geef versus playing the average Geef, it's night and day difference. But that said, he definitely struggles on a lot of matchups, and that's just fine with me. Zeku. You don't really see competitive Zeku that much anymore. Young Zeku still has ridiculous stun output, good rushdown. Old Zeku zoning is always been kind of decent, but he also has the demon, the Zeku flip mix-ups to kind of surprise you and approach in creative ways. His average damage and average stun output outshines most characters. It's kind of surprising how much damage and stun he really can do. That said, I don't know, I feel like he's just not as relevant as he used to be. I still feel like he's very strong. He's going to be in high A. I have to put him in high A. I think he might be better than Chun-Li, worse than Ken. Still a very strong character. Yeah. High A. We'll just call it that. Rose. Rose was one of the worst characters upon release, I feel like. She was struggling hard. They gave her a mid-season buff to improve her damage, improve her combo routes. Rose really, really requires you to dive deep into the character. Like, you have to know Rose very thoroughly to make her effective. She doesn't do much damage, but her zoning game, you know, you juggle the multiple angles that she can cover and the multiple tools she has. Pressure game is pretty good too. Her control with her far range moves is also very good, but her damage is not great unless she lands a big hit. So because of that, you really got to be on point with managing all these things for a long period of time. I think she's okay right now. I think she's a decent character. I think she's better than Ryu, but it might not be worth the squeeze. She's somewhere in B tier. I think she's just somewhere around here. Akira. I hate looking at Akira's face, but we'll do that for this tier list. Her neutral is pretty good. Her heavies, they cover a lot of range and crush counter and they're obnoxious, but they are very negative. So a lot of characters, if they have the options, can punish them, and she can get zoned out. So she doesn't have the best tools versus fireballs at range. Her medium DP can go through fireballs at decent distance, but if you mess up, you're gonna get crush countered. Her V trigger obviously is amazing. Like when Daigo shows up, she can instantly turn the momentum around and do a million damage and win. But you know, as people have gone on, you can V shift a lot of the setups. People have learned how to counter some of it, but she still has robbery potential for sure. She's either at the bottom of the A tier or here. I think she's better than Abigail. I'm gonna put her in the bottom of A tier. That could be personal bias. If you don't like my choice there, you just pretend I put her in B. Oro, here we go. What hot take am I gonna have with Oro? I'm gonna be honest here, I haven't thought about it. Oro is weird. I feel like he's definitely better than people predicted upon the first couple months. People were saying he's trash. I was saying he's trash. I don't think he's trash. He's definitely not D tier, obviously. However, he has a lot of issues without V-Trigger because a lot of characters just completely shit on him who are high tier characters, and that makes it hard to judge. His main confirm tools like towards medium punch, that's -4. It hurls Oro forward, and then he's in free punish range. His crouching medium kick doesn't have the best range, and he can't hit confirm into damage. His damage from lights is really bad because he can't combo to EX Tatsu. So he kind of has a lot of issues converting and doing damage in neutral and keeping up with a lot of the characters up here because they kind of outrange him. His zoning game is good, but once again, a lot of characters have tools to prevent him from setting up shop. But then, of course, the great equalizer is Tengu Stones. Tengu Stones is one of the best V-triggers in the game, bar none. Some people argue it's the best. I don't think it's the best, but I think it's very, very good. It forces people to take a lot of throws. It doesn't really offer the same mix potential as Minot, but the main thing about it is the raw damage potential. If he gets an unscaled hit, he's gonna kill you. Like, you've seen the clips, right? Without Tengu Stones, he's like D or C tier. With Tengu Stones, I think I'd put him in B tier. He lacks consistency and he has a lot of bad matchups. I think this is fair to say. He's somewhere in low B. These characters are all kind of around this range. Luke, the final character. The future of the franchise. We just know he has buffs on the way. Maybe not in the next patch in March, but in Street Fighter 6 is getting his hair upgraded. Luke is S tier. Easy. They knew what they were doing when they released this character. This character is a walking advertisement for the next iteration in the Street Fighter franchise, and they wanted him to be visible. Many competitive top-tier players who are playing characters in the S and A tier have completely dropped their character to focus on Luke because he just does what other characters do better. He has one of the best fireballs in the game. He has a great DP. The way he gets his pressure going from common frame trap shimmy scenarios, he just does that much more damage and that much more stun so that he can kill you in one less interaction. So if a normal character has to do 4 interactions, like a throw, a frame trap, a shimmy, and a combo follow-up, Luke can do that in 1 less. His low forward, he can confirm. It has like a Karin element to him. He can confirm low forward to an EX launcher and get a combo follow-up. He also has gorilla buttons on top of having fireball DP. His fierce punches go full screen, furthest standing jab in the game. Easy to convert target combos. He just hits harder, zones better, anti-air's better, confirms better, pressure's better. And then his V-Trigger 1, the Fireball V-Trigger, it basically is both used to make comebacks and to close out the game. Normally, when in a lot of situations, when you have a life lead and they have a pixel left, you don't want to pop V-Trigger because you might save your V-meter for V-reversal. With Luke, it doesn't matter. You just pop V-Trigger, and then they can't move. It's like a laser beam that he can just pop at any moment. Pop, 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 pop. And if you just flinch on your arcade stick or flinch on your D-pad, that's it, you're dead. So it's both useful for closing out games and making comebacks. And if he doesn't burn it, it can regenerate, which forces you to come to him. So you're eventually going to make a mistake on the way to approaching it. So his V-Trigger is ridiculous. His V-Skill giving him the charge version of his knuckles without charging means he can just do heavy knuckle and get in B+2 in your grill. He's just really good. He's up here. He's in the top 3 to me. Maybe top 2. This looks about right to me. People are trying to debate what matchups he loses. Some people say Balrog can fight Luke, but other than that, I haven't heard about any character that beats Luke. All right. Is there any cleanup we have to do here? These are like roughly ordered. Let's just make this irrelevant. Can I type here? I think this is it. The final tier list for Season 5. Heading into the final season of Street Fighter 5. There we go. Clip it and ship it. That said, if you enjoyed watching this tier list discussion video, as you know, it's obviously the best tier list that could possibly be because I made it. That's how tier lists work. Your opinion is always correct. If you enjoyed this video, please be sure to subscribe to the channel, and I'll be sure to put out more videos like this. Well, hopefully not, actually. Hopefully no more tier lists. Catch you guys in the next one. Peace.